When William Hawthorne became Boston's most trusted private banker, wealthy clients entrusted him with their life savings. But when his gambling addiction and cocaine habits spiraled out of control, he began embezzling millions while murdering clients who discovered his theft, turning their investment meetings into death traps. Before we get to this wonderful story, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get back to the story. The morning fog rolled across Boston Harbor as William Hawthorne straightened his Hermes tie and reviewed the client files spread across his mahogany desk at Beacon Hill Private Wealth Management, the exclusive financial firm where he had built his reputation as New England's premier private banker over the past 15 years. At 46 years old, William managed investment portfolios worth over $800 million for Boston's oldest families, tech entrepreneurs, and international businessmen who valued his discretion as much as his financial expertise and ability to navigate complex offshore investment structures. William's corner office on the 32nd floor of One Financial Center commanded breathtaking views of Boston Common and the Charles River, reflecting his status as the firm's most successful wealth manager and his ability to generate consistent returns for clients who demanded both profitability and absolute confidentiality. His client roster included third-generation Brahmin families whose wealth dated back to the Industrial Revolution, pharmaceutical executives who had built billion-dollar companies, and venture capitalists who had entrusted him with generational wealth that required sophisticated management and protection from market volatility. The office itself was a testament to William's refined taste and professional success, featuring antique leather-bound books that had belonged to his grandfather's law practice, original oil paintings depicting colonial Boston's maritime heritage, and custom-made furniture crafted by master artisans whose work graced the homes of America's wealthiest families. His walls displayed diplomas from Harvard Business School and the Wharton School of Finance, certifications from various financial organizations, including the CFA Institute, and photographs showing him with prominent politicians and business leaders who had sought his financial counsel over the years. But beneath William's polished exterior and impeccable credentials lay a dangerous combination of cocaine addiction, pathological gambling, and mounting debts that had driven him to systematically embezzle client funds while murdering anyone who discovered his theft. "Good morning, William," said Eleanor Ashworth, his 9 o'clock appointment, and the 74-year-old widow of pharmaceutical company founder Dr. Harrison Ashworth, whose investment portfolio was worth approximately $40 million and represented one of the firm's most prestigious accounts. Eleanor had been a client for 8 years, trusting William to manage the complex estate planning and charitable giving strategies that would preserve her late husband's legacy while providing for her family's future generations and supporting the medical research foundation they had established together. "Good morning, Eleanor," William replied with the warm, professional demeanor that had made him legendary among Boston's financial elite and had earned him recognition as one of the country's most trusted wealth managers by prestigious financial publications. "I've prepared a comprehensive review of your portfolio performance and some exciting new investment opportunities that align perfectly with your risk tolerance and philanthropic goals. These new vehicles will allow us to maximize your charitable impact while preserving the principle for your grandchildren's education and future endeavors." Eleanor had become one of William's most vulnerable targets, not because of her substantial wealth alone, but because of her advancing age and increasing reliance on his financial guidance for making complex investment decisions that would affect multiple generations of her family. William had been carefully manipulating her portfolio statements for 18 months, showing fictional gains of 12% annually, while actually transferring her funds to offshore accounts that financed his cocaine purchases and high-stakes gambling sessions at illegal casinos in Macau and Monaco. What Eleanor didn't know was that William had already stolen $12 million from her account and was planning to murder her during their meeting to prevent her from discovering the theft when her family accountant conducted the annual portfolio audit next month. William's transformation from respected banker to calculating killer had begun 3 years earlier when his cocaine addiction had escalated from recreational use at exclusive parties in Beacon Hill to daily dependency that was destroying his judgment and consuming enormous amounts of money. His habit had grown from occasional weekend indulgences, costing a few $100s, to daily requirements that demanded thousands of dollars per week for increasingly pure Colombian cocaine supplied by sophisticated dealers who catered to Boston's professional elite. The drug addiction had been accompanied by an escalating gambling problem that had begun with modest sports betting, but had evolved into high-stakes poker games and international casino junkets that regularly resulted in losses exceeding $100,000 per session. His gambling losses at underground poker games frequented by billionaire tech entrepreneurs and offshore sports betting operations had reached over $2 million, with loan sharks from organized crime families demanding immediate payment and threatening violence against his wife and teenage daughter. Faced with financial ruin and potential exposure of his addictions to clients and colleagues who trusted him with their most valuable assets, William had made the fateful decision to begin embezzling client funds through a sophisticated scheme involving fake investment vehicles and fraudulent accounting practices that exploited gaps in regulatory oversight. His first theft had involved redirecting a modest retirement account belonging to an elderly client who rarely reviewed his statements, but the success of this initial crime had convinced William that systematic embezzlement was both profitable and difficult to detect when executed by someone with his expertise and reputation. The embezzlement had escalated rapidly as William's addictions consumed increasing amounts of money and his gambling losses mounted into the millions, forcing him to steal larger sums from more prominent clients. Within 18 months, William had stolen over $30 million from client accounts, using complex financial instruments including derivative contracts, offshore shell companies, and fraudulent private placement investments to hide the theft while maintaining the appearance of successful portfolio management. His methods were so sophisticated that even experienced accountants and financial auditors had difficulty detecting the irregularities without conducting extensive forensic analysis that most clients never requested. William's first murder had occurred when client Robert Morrison, a forensic accountant who specialized in investigating financial fraud for corporate clients, had begun asking detailed questions about unusual investment vehicles that appeared on his portfolio statements but didn't match any publicly traded securities or legitimate private investments that Morrison could verify through his professional contacts. Morrison's death had been meticulously planned and executed with the precision that characterized William's legitimate financial planning. During their private meeting in William's office, he had administered a concentrated dose of digoxin extracted from foxglove plants that caused fatal cardiac arrhythmia, while appearing to be a natural heart attack brought on by the stress of reviewing complex financial documents. The client's death had eliminated a dangerous threat while allowing William to transfer Morrison's remaining funds to accounts that financed his continued gambling and drug use. The success of his first murder had convinced William that killing clients was not only necessary for protecting his embezzlement scheme, but also provided access to life insurance payouts and estate assets that could be manipulated through forged documents. "Mr. Hawthorne, we need to discuss some serious concerns about your recent client interactions," said Dr. Patricia Williams, the firm's consulting psychiatrist who'd been hired to evaluate employees showing signs of stress or behavioral changes that might affect their professional judgment. Dr. Williams had been observing William's behavior for several weeks and had noticed significant changes in his demeanor, decision-making patterns, and interactions with clients that suggested possible substance abuse or psychological instability. "Of course, Dr. Williams," William replied, though he felt a familiar surge of anxiety whenever medical professionals showed interest in his behavior or mental state. "I'm always willing to discuss ways to improve my client service and maintain the highest standards of professional excellence." Dr. Williams consulted her notes about specific incidents and behavioral observations that had raised concerns among William's colleagues and administrative staff. "William, several of your colleagues have reported that you've been exhibiting signs of increased agitation, paranoid behavior, and unusual secrecy about your client meetings. Additionally, there have been reports of strong chemical odors in your office and erratic behavior during client presentations that suggest possible substance abuse." Dr. Williams's psychological evaluation represented a serious threat to Williams' ability to continue his criminal activities, as her professional assessment could result in mandatory drug testing, medical leave, or termination that would expose his embezzlement. Dr. Williams, I appreciate your concern for my well-being, but I can assure you that any changes in my behavior are simply the result of increased workload and the stress of managing complex portfolios during volatile market conditions, Williams said carefully, while mentally calculating whether the psychiatrist would need to be eliminated before she could complete her evaluation and report her findings to firm management. Dr. Williams wasn't convinced by Williams' explanations, having worked with financial professionals long enough to recognize the signs of cocaine addiction and the behavioral changes that typically preceded professional misconduct or criminal activity. William, I'm recommending that you take a temporary leave of absence to address what appears to be significant substance abuse issues. The firm has excellent treatment programs available, and early intervention could save both your career and your health. The psychiatrist's recommendation for mandatory treatment and temporary suspension would have immediately exposed Williams' embezzlement scheme by triggering automatic account reviews and client contact procedures that would reveal the missing funds and fraudulent investments. Williams' response was swift and calculated as he moved to eliminate Dr. Williams using the same sophisticated poisoning methods that had successfully killed his previous victims. Dr. Williams, I think there may be some misunderstanding about normal stress responses in high-pressure financial environments, Williams said calmly, while discreetly reaching for a prepared dose of concentrated aconitine that he kept hidden in his desk drawer for emergency situations. Perhaps we could continue this discussion over dinner tonight at my club, where we can speak more privately about your concerns and develop an appropriate treatment plan. The dinner invitation was Williams' standard method for administering poison to his victims, as it provided a controlled environment where he could ensure that the deadly substance was consumed without arousing suspicion from witnesses or security personnel. Dr. Williams accepted the dinner invitation, trusting the financial advisor who had maintained an exemplary professional reputation for over a decade and had shown apparent willingness to address her concerns about his behavior and mental health. But Williams' plan to murder Dr. Williams was about to be complicated by the unexpected arrival of someone who had been specifically trained to investigate suspicious deaths and financial crimes in professional settings. Special Agent Sarah Chen of the FBI's Financial Crimes Division had been conducting a discreet investigation into suspicious deaths and financial irregularities at several Boston-area wealth management firms, including Beacon Hill Private Wealth Management. Agent Chen specialized in complex financial fraud cases involving murder and had developed expertise in identifying patterns of client victimization by trusted financial professionals who used their positions to commit systematic theft and violence. The federal investigation had been triggered by reports from multiple insurance companies who had noticed unusual patterns of life insurance claims and beneficiary changes involving clients of specific financial advisors in the Boston metropolitan area. The concentration of suspicious deaths among Williams' clients had attracted particular attention due to the substantial insurance payouts and the unusual circumstances surrounding several of the fatalities, including medical emergencies that occurred during private meetings and deaths that immediately preceded major financial transactions. Agent Chen had been conducting surveillance of Williams' activities for several weeks and had observed his meetings with known drug dealers and illegal gambling operators, suggesting that his expensive lifestyle was being financed through illegal means rather than legitimate investment income. Her investigation had also revealed Williams' connections to organized crime figures who were known to use violence and intimidation to collect gambling debts from wealthy professionals. "Mr. Hawthorne, I'm Special Agent Chen with the FBI," she announced as she entered Williams' office, carrying a warrant for his arrest and the seizure of his financial records. "I have a federal warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement, securities fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder." Williams' reaction to the federal agent's arrival was immediate panic, as he realized that law enforcement had been investigating his criminal activities for weeks and had gathered enough evidence to support serious federal criminal charges that carried potential life sentences. His embezzlement scheme and murder spree had finally attracted the attention of federal authorities who had the resources and expertise to expose his crimes and prosecute him to the full extent of the law. Special Agent Chen, there must be some serious misunderstanding, Williams said frantically, while abandoning his plan to poison Dr. Williams and attempting to maintain his professional reputation in front of the psychiatrist who was witnessing his arrest. I'm a licensed financial advisor with 15 years of experience serving Boston's most prominent families. I would never engage in any illegal activities that could harm my clients or damage the firm's reputation. Dr. Williams looked shocked as she realized how close she had come to being murdered by the colleague she had been trying to help through professional intervention and treatment recommendations. Her psychological evaluation of William had not only exposed his criminal behavior, but it also prevented her own death at his hands. The investigation that followed Williams' arrest revealed the full scope of his criminal enterprise and the sophisticated methods he had used to embezzle client funds while murdering witnesses and potential whistleblowers. Forensic analysis of Williams' financial records revealed a complex network of offshore accounts, shell companies, and fraudulent investment vehicles that he had used to steal over $40 million from client portfolios over a 3-year period. His detailed accounting showed systematic theft that had accelerated dramatically as his gambling losses increased and his cocaine addiction consumed larger amounts of money, forcing him to target more prominent clients with substantial assets. The investigation also uncovered extensive evidence of Williams' connections to organized crime figures who had been providing him with illegal drugs and facilitating his participation in high-stakes gambling operations that catered to wealthy professionals and international businessmen. His debts to these criminal organizations had reached over $5 million and had been a driving factor in his escalation from embezzlement to murder as he desperately sought to generate enough money to satisfy his creditors and avoid violent retaliation. Most disturbing was the discovery of Williams' detailed plans for murdering additional clients and firm employees, including forged death certificates, fraudulent estate documents, and life insurance policies that would have allowed him to inherit substantial portions of his victims' wealth while eliminating potential witnesses to his crimes. His target list included several prominent Boston families whose deaths would have generated tens of millions of dollars in insurance payouts and inheritance transfers. William Hawthorne was ultimately convicted of 7 counts of first-degree murder, embezzlement of over $40 million, securities fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit organized criminal activity. The conviction sent shockwaves through Boston's financial community and prompted comprehensive reforms in wealth management oversight procedures and client protection protocols. Several other financial advisors were investigated for similar criminal activities, leading to increased scrutiny of the entire private banking industry and new regulations requiring enhanced background checks and psychological evaluations for professionals with access to client assets. Dr. Williams received recognition for her courage in exposing Williams' criminal behavior and became a specialist in identifying psychological warning signs that might indicate financial professionals were engaging in criminal activity. Her expertise helped develop new screening procedures for wealth management firms and training programs for recognizing signs of substance abuse and criminal behavior among financial advisors. Eleanor Ashworth and other surviving clients required extensive financial counseling and legal assistance to recover their stolen assets and rebuild their investment portfolios. Many suffered significant financial losses that required years of litigation and asset recovery efforts to partially resolve, with some families losing generational wealth that had taken decades to accumulate. The case prompted comprehensive changes in financial industry regulation, including mandatory drug testing for financial advisors, enhanced audit procedures for client accounts, and new reporting requirements for suspicious deaths or medical emergencies involving wealthy clients. Williams' conviction also led to increased scrutiny of the relationships between financial professionals and their clients, with new protocols designed to identify cases where advisors might have financial motives for harming clients or manipulating their assets for personal gain. The wealth management industry implemented new safety measures for client meetings, including mandatory recording of private consultations and enhanced security procedures for high-value account transactions. Agent Chen's investigation became a model for identifying financial crimes involving violence and led to the discovery of several other criminal operations that had been exploiting the trust between financial advisors and their wealthy clients to commit systematic theft and murder. 5 years after Williams' conviction, the financial services industry continued to implement comprehensive safeguards designed to protect wealthy clients from exploitation by unethical advisors who might abuse their positions of trust and fiduciary responsibility. The banker who had promised to protect and grow his clients' wealth had instead used his position to steal their money and end their lives, but his crimes had been exposed, and his victims had found justice through the dedication of investigators who refused to accept suspicious deaths as mere coincidences in the high-stress world of wealth management. William Hawthorne's fraudulent fortune had been built on the systematic theft and murder of clients who had trusted him with their most valuable assets and their lives. His case served as a permanent reminder that positions of financial authority could be exploited by criminals willing to betray the fundamental principles of fiduciary responsibility and client protection that form the foundation of ethical wealth management. The banker's fraudulent fortune had ended in criminal conviction and life imprisonment, proving that even the most sophisticated financial crimes could be exposed when dedicated investigators and ethical professionals work together to protect innocent people from exploitation by those who would abuse their positions of trust in the financial services industry. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.